What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Spencer, taking a look at Buster Blader. It's been a really long time, but some like really underrated support has come out. I used to run like a Red Eyes Fusion package, but that's just okay. And I guess you could technically still do that, right? It's a great way to get dragons into the graveyard, but not being able to summon at all after that turn makes things a little rough, right? I mean, Dragoon is an Omni Negate, which is really good. It's obviously a good card, but you'd almost like to be able to do a little bit more than that, and I think this is what the deck accomplishes. And obviously, like, the biggest difference from when I played this a long time ago, besides the format being like drastically different, is this card right here, which I think is dangerously underrated. I don't know if it's great right now, but my goodness, if there's ever a card to send to the extra deck that's good, because literally like the only targets to summon this thing out is Five-Headed Dragon. If this was a good card, you're talking about some like pretty crazy stuff. So let's go ahead, let's take a look, and I'll show you the list, and then I'll show you a bunch of gameplay. It's really an amalgamation of a lot of different engines, but they surprisingly work really well together, and most of them are one card engines, and that can be worth a tremendous amount. So on to the Dogmatika stuff. I don't run Punishment, but I run Fleur. You got Maximus, and you have three Ecclesia to go along with Zoa. So going second, this card can be really good going second if this is your last kind of move here. This card, the new card, Dogmatika Matrix, if your opponent controls a monster, you can just search both the ritual monster and the ritual spell at the same time. Now, if your opponent doesn't control one, you get to search one, but a lot of the times if you're one piece off, it's so good to search this first and then search the other piece, because this lets you send either a card from your extra deck to the graveyard, which there are a gazillion great, amazing targets, or you get to look at your opponent to send another, right? Zoa sends half of their extra deck to the graveyard. They're going to like leave off those one-ofs probably, right, that's left in the extra deck, and then you can go ahead and attack one more. It's really incredible what this deck can do. So I love this little engine I have here. I think this card's incredible, right? 4,000 attack, unaffected by extra deck monsters, and your opponent either has to send all the like extra deck monsters they control, back into the extra deck, or send a bunch to the graveyard. No, like straight up Thanosing, their extra deck is like game ending against a lot of decks. 2 Buster Blader, right? This is the not the new one, but it's the upgraded version, right? When it destroys a monster by battle, or actually any monster destroyed by a battle, you get to equip it to this card and then send it to do kind of like a Rokket. Which is a pretty good effect depending on what your opponent's playing. It's not great, but it's definitely better than the original, which is unfortunate because Buster Blader has one of the hardest card artworks. I can't speak. But I just love this. Even the original is like obviously like super good. But this one right here, my goodness, that card art goes so hard, unbelievably hard. But you kind of just, and this is actually really cool too, but this is objectively better, so you just have to play it. This is 2 Magician Souls, so kind of a little small package. Illusion of Chaos is good for drawing cards, right? Like Dogmatika Matrix is something you'd want to send to the graveyard. You need Sword of Memories to send to the graveyard every once in a while, but if you have Magician Souls in your hand, this card is usually terrible to see. But if you can send it to the graveyard to draw a card, this lets you fusion summon during your opponent's turn or any turn, which is like very good. So definitely like 100% necessary to have in the deck. I run a really small Rokket package, but this is a way to get, dragons in the graveyard. Fusion, you have to fusion summon with Buster Blader and then a dragon monster. Sometimes that's Buster Whelp, right? But you can also do it through Rockets, and you can also do it through, sending cards to the graveyard. Either like Five-Headed Dragon is one of those. So all these different, versions or engines all send dragons to the graveyard, which is the most important thing, because that works, with Destruction Swordsman cards and all that good stuff. 3 Dark Ruler No More, 3 Nadir Servant, 3 Forbidden Droplets. These are your hard going second cards, or, Nadir Servant's just truly incredible. It does so much for the deck. It's Interruption, or it's like amazing going second. It's one of the most versatile cards in the entire game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Big fan. Forbidden Droplets is also just so good with cards like Quick Launch with Nadir Servant. Dark Ruler No More, I guess, technically too, but you can want to send something like Memories to the graveyard. You want to send that Buster Blader in your hand to the graveyard. Just another way to do that, because it's really important, because these cards become really clogged in your hand. Excuse me. All right, 3 quick launch. Dogmatika Matrix I've talked a lot about. Boot Sector launch is just that free, way to get to your, Borreload Savage Dragon. You want to have a little bit of insurance against something like Raigeki or Evenly Matched, and that's just the way that you do it. Or you can hard make Buster Dragon, with this engine, right? It's just a regular Synchro 8. And that's like, the Synchro only lasts for 2 turns. So if you can hard make it, then you're off kind of like in a better spot. If you can. And then you also have something like Red Archfiend Abyss. But I'll talk about kind of those tech choices here in a second. Dogmatika Calamity, of course, for the Fusion Summon. 2 Sword of Memories. Yeah, I mean, I'll talk about it, but I guess I could discuss it now. But I've really never gone into the Fusion twice or the Synchro twice. Maybe the Synchro more than once. I don't know. I guess you could kind of maybe get away with running this at 1, although it becomes much worse if you see it in your hand. So it's just one of those things where there definitely are some bricks in this deck, right? 4, that's a lot. Like that's a lot of bricks. But technically they're not bricks. You'll see in some of these replays where they do come in handy. And being able to send this to their graveyard with something, with your Magician Souls is also pretty decent. But yeah, that's just always been part of the deck, obviously. This is Prologue. Incredible, right? Just skill drain with a giant walking body that's almost impossible to get over is really good. And then Trap Trick, of course. Like, you need to find this card. So there's 9 copies of Prologue, which is the whole point of the deck. And then Shaddoll Schism. Golly, like, locking your opponent out of special summoning, like, maybe they can deal with that. But if you get Shaddoll Winda on top of it, your opponent probably is going to scoop, right? Like, that is... I've had so many, like, double evenly matched and all these other things where my opponent is able to get over kind of the Buster Lock, as they call it, and then I just flip Shaddoll Schism and they lose, against, like, Scareclaw or something like that. It's just incredible. But onto the extra deck, 5-headed dragon is specifically for Zoa, so hopefully in the future there's a better target. But at the very least, this is a dragon, so it's kind of cool. Works with Prologue a little bit. Titan Clad is also a dragon, so that definitely comes up. App Cologne is a 1-card Shaddoll Winda, which is truly amazing. Garua, right? You want to be able to Nadir Servant, send Garua Search. So you get to +1, you add a card, and then Maximus just pluses you infinitely, You can send cards like Herald, you can send cards like App Cologne. Maximus is so good. 2 Nadir, or 2 Elder Entity Nis, excuse me. So like I said, you can probably just dump Hot Red Archfiend Abyss and just run 2 copies, so that way you can Fusion Summon twice. Probably objectively the right choice. I just kind of like the extra sauce, Normal summoning Buster while having either Buster Dragon, which is about to go away, or a Borreload Savage Dragon that was already used, can win you duels, of course. This card is absolutely incredible. And then I have 2 Buster Dragon. Definitely want to have at least 2 of these, right? Just in case you lose it, and then you can hard make the second one. I talked about this card. Wind Pegasus Agnister. Another card that you could potentially take out to run another one if you really like Hot Red Archfiend Abyss, which I do. But this card also wins me duels constantly. Targeting. It does target, but it shuffles back, and I can think of so many times my opponent just isn't paying attention or doesn't play around it, right? They go through their turn. I send this card so early on where your opponent just doesn't think it's going to be used, or they just completely, forget about it when they're going through their plays. They go into the battle phase, putting so much of their resources into one card, and then suddenly Wind Pegasus Agnister just ends their turn, or ends the duel a lot of the times. Herald of Arclight, right? Just being able to search one of these ritual spells is super important. And then the 1 copy of Striker Dragon, right? That really good loop that gets you into a 1-negate Borreload Savage Dragon, and more importantly, gets a dragon into the graveyard for Prologue. Side deck I actually kind of like. This is Lancia, right? Just trying to give yourself the best chance to beat Kashtira is like pretty much the option here. Harpy's Feather Duster. Hey Trunate is actually like super underrated against Trap Tricks. You'll see, like, they're gonna have that new one that protects the back row. So like Lightning Storm isn't even that good. Evenly Matched is good, but yeah, Hey Trunate can like really win you duels. I think this is gonna be a regular for me. In this format specifically. Lightning Storm, Book of Moon, and then Evenly Matched. Just kind of general, right? You want to play against Labyrinth. You want to have these really good cards. Evenly Matched is just generally good, I think, all the time. And I'm actually pretty happy. For a deck that's as casual as this, the performance I've had is like really, really cool. So let's go ahead and look at some replays here. This is against Hero. So seeing 2 bricks in the hand, but at the same time, I also have some really powerful engine cards. So I can't really complain. These little small engines take up so many like small hand traps. And if your opponent's playing small hand traps, you have a really good chance of winning. So I can go ahead and special summon out, you know, Rokket Tracer, so good, right? Just being able to set that up and having the Omni Gate just to kind of work for everything else. Even if I do have 2 bricks in my hand, at the very least, my other engine cards are very good. Now, if I was going second, this would be really unfortunate, but, you know, it worked out for me this way. I won the dice roll, and I can set my locks here. So I have a Monster Negate with Fleur. I have Skill Drain, right? And I have an Omni Negate. So this is the infamous lock. And I can go ahead and banish the trap from the graveyard and then go for the fusion. Also, yeah, isn't it so weird? Like, Prologue protects your Destruction Swordsman, but this is a Destroyer Swordsman. Like, this should have been protected from card effects, to be honest, but it is what it is. No Fusion Destiny. I don't think it would have actually mattered. Like, he couldn't use the effect, but you don't want to have, you know, DP lingering around, especially with Buster Dragon, you know, like on its last legs. It's going to be gone pretty soon here. So, yeah, I mean, it's like literally game winning against so many different decks. But, yeah, look at this. I sided this in. I knew I was going first, but so many of these cards I had in my deck just didn't really do anything. So I, you know, like Dark Ruler, decided to side it out, put in Hey True Nate, especially if he's able to, like, set up an established board, and I can do some pretty cool stuff. So I can go ahead and put Tracer back in my hand, go through this regular loop here, have some really good stuff. So I might be hard making the Buster Dragon, right? I need Maximus to go up. It's going to give me incredible amounts of advantage. But this is such a good resource loop. So most of the time, like, Rokket Tracer in traditional sense is going to, you know, pop Boot Sector Launch, but it's actually just a draw. Like, if you have any other card in your hand, I actually send Destruction Sword Memories, right, which is the fusion. You just get to do some really cool stuff. So I got to send that, and I got to send Boot Sector Launch, and this card does nothing. So I get to just pop this card. So I get to draw 2 and go from the deck. Now, you can even chain, right? You send 2 from the field, and then what I should have done was quick effect, pop the Magician Souls. That way I don't draw into the dragon, or guaranteed. But I'm going to be able to go into here. Maybe there's like another like generic 8 you can go into. I'm not exactly sure, but I ended up drawing to Nadir's Servant, so I could have gone into Buster Dragon, but because I have this, you know, I might as well. I get to draw 1 card, and look at that, I draw into Prologue. It's good, especially when you have kind of a wonky opening to see it come out like so well. And here's Matrix, because Maximus is going to be able to summon, and I get to grab the Fusion Cell. So I have an Omni Negate, I have Prologue. He's going to have to send half of his extra deck to the graveyard. My goodness. And I get to send Buster Blader to the graveyard too over the course of this turn. So the 2 bricks in the deck are unbricked from my hand officially. So there we go. There goes most of his extra deck. You know, some of these outs are a little bit untraditional. And then I also looked at his extra deck specifically. You know what I mean? So I could get rid of that DPE. So if he has Fusion Destiny, it's not doing nothing. So I have the Omni for evenly matched, and here comes the second one. Must be nice. But I do also have Shaddoll Schism. So this card is incredibly powerful against Trap Trick. He's not going to be able to use Holy Tea if he wants to, right? He cannot special summon again. And I do have Hey True Nate here. I can normal summon this, right? Put those cards back into the hand. And then I can normal summon. I can go for Fleur. I don't think this is lethal, so 3,000, 2,000, no. So I'm going to go ahead and play this conservative, right? I have 1 special summon, but it's going to be a Monster Negate. So as long as he cannot get into the one that special summons itself, like he would have been able to search it here, but I have Fleur, so I'm going to go ahead and negate that. So through double evenly match, like he's done for, right? The Trap Trick is very reactionary, so if I have these cards that are able to do this, he's not going to be able to do much. Now, normally I would trigger Sarah, right? A trap was activated, but yeah, it's not really how it works. You know, you can't special summon more than once, so you can't even chain them together. You can only special summon 1 time under Winda. It's a really good card. So I'm going to go ahead and pop the back row. It's, you know, whole nightmare. I actually don't have anything else, so I misplayed, especially if you had another evenly matched, because I don't think this Shaddoll Winda can attack directly, but Yeah, that was pretty cool to have won that and to have such a really good end board. Again, kind of a ho hum opening. That's what you want to call it. But my opponent's playing Dragon Link, and is there a worse matchup for Dragon Link than, like, normally it's a skill drain, by churning all the monsters and the dragons, and you only gain attack for dragon monsters that are on the field because those obviously don't become dragons again in the graveyard. But if your opponent's playing Dragon Link, well, your Destruction Swordsman is going to be, or your Destroyer Swordsman, how lame, is going to be absolutely bonkers. So I'm going to go ahead and special summon White Dragon here. He's going to go into Pisty, which is perfectly fine. He is missing a zone, so he's got to be careful there. I don't think there's one that points back. He probably has to go for Triple Burst, and that's just okay. He's going to go for Magnum Hut. I don't know, maybe it is Magnum Hut. Anyways, finally Pisty's online. He can bring back Buster Drake. He's going to go for Borland, but that's where Forbidden Droplet comes in, and I've been using this card more and more, and if you play it in the right deck, it's truly good. And kind of a weird opening. I can probably send back Memories or, send it to the graveyard with Magician Souls. But he's going to add that card back to his hand. It's going to be Magnum Hut. Now I feel weird saying it. But I'm going to draw a couple cards. It ends up being like Dark Ruler, which is, it's just not very good. But yeah, isn't that funny? Whelp can go into Striker Dragon, so an easy way to get something to the graveyard while getting to add a free card to your hand. But I'm going to go ahead and get over Borland right by Forbidden Droplets there. And I also get to send another dragon to the graveyard, which is super important. So probably not looking good right now, but as long as I can survive and Prologue goes through, which it will. So I think he's going to end up trying to chain his Druis Worm, but this is a quick effect, and I think what he was thinking was that, Destruction Swordsman is a dark. It is not. It is an earth, which feels super random. So he's actually just going to blank that hardcore. Look at this 12,000 attack monster. And he can't activate any effects, obviously. So he's going to go for Baron, but that doesn't do anything. If he was able to, get out that Druis Worm, well, I would have been in big trouble because he would have been able to get rid of something. But he can't now because he blanked it. He can bring it out during my turn if he wants, but my 14,800 attack, swordsman would have been really, really, it wouldn't have mattered. It would have been crazy piercing damage. So that fusion is truly incredible. I love that card. It's so fun to play. Let's see here. This card is glued to my hand, isn't it? Unbelievable. Run of that 2, you're gonna see it every once in a while, but every single time is kind of depressing. Now, this is one where I probably make Buster Dragon, or I hard make it, I'm pretty sure, just because I want this Maximus to be online. So I can go ahead and bring out Rocket Tracer, which is going to pop the field spell, so I can, start going through my plays. Yep, so I'm going to hard make this. And this card can actually be good, depending, right? If you're playing, Trap Tricks, they have to use 2 plant monsters. They can't. This makes them Dragon. And I'm sure there's always going to be a lot of really random cases, but yeah. Now I'm going to have Prologue, I'm going to have Fleur, Schism, Forbidden Droplets. This is nasty. So we'll see what my opponent's playing. He's going to go for Dark World, but yeah, he Lava Golems there, but golly, that's it's just not going to get it done. I have 2 super good, just he already special summoned once. He can't even use any of the names in his hand, and yeah, that's just it. And that's kind of the cool thing. It's very conservative. You can wait. You don't have to draw phase activate Prologue. You can wait till your opponent plays, right? Where they can blank some of their more powerful cards, especially if your opponent maybe starts with a Lightning Storm or something like that. You just want to play around those cards, and you can activate Schism first, and then you can go into Prologue. All of those things are factors. This is against, I think, Dinomorphia, which is another just pretty good matchup here. So, Nadir, Servant, Schism, all of these cards are very good to see in your opening. And this would have been really good, Imperm Bait or something like that, right? Your opponent probably tries to blink that if they have it. You know, Boot Sector Launch is just a free card. I don't get to use it necessarily, but that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and activate Magician Souls, right? It just ends up being a free draw card, which is pretty awesome. So I draw into Dogmatika Ecclesia, which is so good because I can draw another card, and then it helps me go into Zoa. Yeah, I just draw into, of course. That's the only card in my deck. He does have the Imperm, so I guess he did hold on to it, but I am going to go into Fleur, and I'm still going to have some crazy locks here. So, yeah, it's a bit unfortunate, right? It would have been really, really cool to be able to go into Zoa, but really no harm, no foul here. He's going to go for Pot of Duality. That's perfectly fine. You know, going to search one of these, like, important names, but it's not really going to do much. Like, the Dinomorphia cards obviously wouldn't do anything. But I'm going to go ahead and negate there, right? I don't want him to be able to, like, start going into it. I don't think I'm ever going to use this for anything else. I don't really need to, right? I still have Prologue, and I can wait during my opponent's turn to activate Prologue. That way, Buster Dragon sticks around for just a little bit longer. He is going to go for the, the Zark play, which is kind of funny. So if I activate a spell card, I'm actually in a tough spot, but every single turn drawing 2 cards, this card is really incredible. So I'm going to go ahead and start, taking out the back row. I can now go into Zoa as well, which definitely makes a big difference here. Nadir Servant. Now he's going to go for the spell, but like these all go to defense position anyways, so it's like it doesn't really matter because I'm just going to have piercing battle damage. And I was just trying to get rid of his back row. You never know, so you always want to play it safe. But yeah, attack right there, right? Piercing battle damage for 7,800 is really good. It's like Chaos Max, but I guess it doesn't have that inherent protection, which is kind of the problem. And I'm just going to show one more. I think this is against Plunder Patrol or something. Yeah, seeing Recharger is also kind of a brick. So then that's definitely the biggest deficiency, is that there's just not a lot of great cards. But I'm going to go ahead and normal summon there, go into Striker Dragon, give myself a little bit of an extra draw. He does go for Ash, but that's fine. Wow, top deck of Ecclesia. Now, there are a lot of good draws, right? There's a lot of bricks that you can draw at the top, but there's also a ton of really good cards. But Prologue plus Forbidden Droplets plus it's a lot of monster negating, but hey, you never know. If my opponent's able to get over some of these cards, then I do have a lot of backup plans. So he's going to go for, I thought it was Punk. I guess it's Punk Virtual World, but Punk's kind of like a minus-y deck, and I don't think you want to play a super minus-y deck. Now, there used to be like a Hulk version, and that was really cool, but I'm not sure if Virtual World is the best kind of deck for this. Now, isn't this funny? And this is a great way to end. Psychic and Punisher is unaffected by the activated effects. So this is a Floodgate effect, which is a really cool little kind of niche thing there. But yeah, that is Buster Blader. Very fun deck to play. I really hope to pick it up in real life someday. Probably very soon. Like, none of the cards on it are ever going to be hit. Like, probably ever again, I don't think Nadir Servant is as incredible as it is just not being played, in the competitive scene. So that's like kind of the only card in the entire engine that I could ever see being hit again. But it ain't happening anytime soon. This is a very secure deck. I like to play decks like that, right? Raid Raptor, Buster Blader, these kind of just fringe casual decks that are a little bit better than like regular casual, that you can kind of steal some wins against any deck, and then like they're cheap and they're going to stay around. You can just use those whenever you want. So that's what I really like about this deck the most. But let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. Other than that, that's going to do it for today's video, and I'll see you guys next time.